Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here on Facebook Live. We're excited that you're here with us. I am Carolina Casada with the Nonprofit Partnership, welcoming you to another interview in our series titled Our Stories, Our Time. In this series, we interview nonprofit leaders to understand how organizations are navigating through the challenges of these current times. And by way of telling stories, we are chronicling the experience of organizations and taking stock of what is happening in our communities during this time. We're making an effort to capture brief stories coming from all types of organizations and from the people who lead them. Now, if you're watching us live, please feel free to stop by and say hello to our guests today. If you have any comments or questions, please, we invite you to leave all of that on our comments box. So without further ado, and let me just say, I'm really thrilled to have Kathryn Miles, Executive Director of the Jewish Family and Children Service of Long Beach and West Orange County here today. And I was sharing with Kathryn earlier that we've really been thinking about and trying to see, okay, when can we interview them? Because we really would like to talk to them about what is happening. So Kathryn, welcome. So happy that you're here with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thanks. Now, your organization, Jewish Family and Children Service, has been around for many decades. You have a very long and storied history in Long Beach, a stakeholder organization, a very important one in our community. For those who are not aware of JFCS, tell us a little bit more about your services and what you do.
Sure. And you're right. We have been in the Long Beach community for over 60 years, which not everybody realizes. And about a year after we were founded, the founders decided that we should be here not only to serve the Jewish community, but the entire community. So we have been here to serve people regardless of ethnicity, religion, socioeconomic status, national origin. We really are here to serve the entire community. And we are a mental health and social service agency. So we see clients age as young as 4 on up to, we say, a 4 to 104. We're here to serve people through the entire lifespan with mental health services, as well as domestic violence education and prevention, financial assistance. We have an older adult services department working with older adults who are still living in their homes. And then we also partner with the Downey and Los Alamitos public schools, as well as the Hebrew Academy, to provide counseling on campus. So we do quite a little bit.
Yes, you sure do. Thank you. And I look forward to having us talk about in a few minutes or so a bit more of the collaboration that your organization does. And it's so interesting to see as well how much a part of your culture it is to actually collaborate with other communities, other organizations, and certainly the kinds of services that you're offering are very multidimensional and impact families, I think, in different layers. And that was one of the other things I was curious about learning a bit more about the organization is you really are serving the whole family unit, different ages in one family, so to speak.
Absolutely. We will often have clients come in and we may be working with the parents and the children. They may have been referred to us, by Department of Family and Children's Services or the courts for reunification or for family therapy. We may be working with a client, an adult client, and their parent who is a senior, where there might be some concerns about their ability to still live at home safely or to, manage their bills, things like that. So we really do work with people of all ages and of all family dynamics. Single parents, like I said, families with older adults involved. So it really runs the gamut. And one of the nice things about our organization as well is people can participate in more than one of our programs. So we may have someone come in who needs counseling, and then she may also decide to participate in our domestic violence education and prevention program. And then we may have that same family participate in our adoptive family program during the holidays, where we have volunteers who shop and purchase gifts to distribute during the holiday season. So we try to look at each family unit holistically and see what services we can provide. And if there are needed services that we don't provide, then, you mentioned earlier collaboration. We do really try to reach out and refer also to our partnering agencies in the community who may be able to provide a service that we aren't currently offering.
So with that in mind, Kathryn, and earlier as you were describing a little bit of the history of the organization, your constituency base, there's a lot of diversity in the families that you're serving. Tell us a bit more about who you serve, whose lives you're touching.
Sure. We have a very diverse constituency, and as such, we also try to have a really diverse set of clinicians that can provide services as well. So we are serving, I will say we are serving primarily people who are on the middle to lower side of the income scale. So 85% of the clients that we serve fall below 200% of the federal poverty level. So we're really serving people who are, they may qualify for public assistance. They may earn just enough so they don't qualify for public assistance, but they're still struggling to put food on the table and to pay their bills. So mental health and other services are often something that isn't in their budget, which is why, we feel it's so important to provide services on a sliding scale based on people's ability to pay and really make sure that they are able to receive the services that they need. We have, as I said earlier, services that are offered in both English and Spanish. We serve people who from the Black community, from the Asian community, and as such, as I said, was talking about our staff. We're a training site for either graduate level or postgraduate level marriage family therapy interns and social work interns and associates who are working on becoming licensed. And not only do we have an ethnically diverse group, we also have a diverse group in terms of age, because one of the things that we often say is that, not everybody, if you are older, you may not want to have a clinician who has gone straight through and is, in their early to mid 20s, if you yourself are in your 50s or 60s. So we also have a lot of clinicians who have made some shifts, career shifts. This might be a second career for them. And they've gone back to school and they have a little bit more life experience. So we really work to pair the client with the clinician that we feel is going to be a good fit for them, because that really can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And it's interesting on the flip side of things too, as you think about where a lot of these clinicians are coming from, they're also representing, and I think you're really touching on that, a diversity of backgrounds and communities too. What an interesting pipeline builder you also offer, to have these new and emerging clinicians that are coming into the field to really get a chance to do their practicum there at your site.
One of the things that we hear a lot when people reach out to join one of the departments, whether or not it's through school or if they've finished their master's and they're looking to continue working on their hours that are required, we hear people say, I understand that I can get a really diverse experience with JFCS because of who we're serving. You can work with clients of all ages, variety of backgrounds, and in different settings. You can work in individual counseling, you can work in our older adult and social work department, you can work in groups, you can facilitate some of our groups, so you really do get an opportunity to gain skills in multiple areas.
Wow. Well, thank you. Maybe next time when we have a little bit more time as well, or perhaps in the future, having more of that conversation to understand how different pipelines are being built in the community is important, and your organization is really at that crossroads too. So
I would love that. Yes.
No, and thanks for giving us a glimpse into that, Kathryn. So let's turn our conversation today to what's on everyone's minds for months now, and that is the pandemic. And for those who have been watching the series of interviews that we've been doing, really that's the focus we take when we engage leaders like you. So what has happened with the organization, with your services, your staff, I mean, there's so many questions to ask, but overall, just, give us a summary of how the organization has had to change course?
Sure. Just like all organizations in the community, we were hit pretty hard in March with the news that the stay-at-home orders were going into place. And if you had asked me at the beginning of 2020 if JFCS was an organization that could operate remotely, honestly, I would have said I didn't think so. Given what we do, it's so based on connection and personal connection. But I was wrong, and we did. Our team is amazing, and we within a week made a big shift and rewrote a lot of policy and procedure, and took our entire operation to remote service provision. So our counseling, support groups, financial assistance, older adult services, and domestic violence education prevention, all running remotely. We're using a lot of Zoom, and a lot of one of the nice things that did happen is that the federal government changed the HIPAA guidelines. That was one of our challenges before. Zoom was not considered HIPAA compliant. FaceTime was not considered HIPAA compliant. And now we are able to use those channels, which was a huge help for us.
Yes.
In the beginning, we saw that some of our clients, not knowing how long this was going to last, they were hesitant, and particularly for counseling, and thought, I'm going to wait. This is not something I want to do over the phone or on the computer. And then after about 2 weeks, we saw our numbers start to pick back up again, recognizing that, this is really going to go on a long time, longer than we all anticipated. And people's anxiety was increasing, and, depression was increasing. The challenges of having children at home and all of those kinds of things, people really felt the need to return to our services.
Have you seen, as far as those services are concerned, which is the therapy, the counseling, that one-on-one engagement, or sometimes group engagement, have you seen that your numbers have held steady to previous programming numbers, or what are you seeing as far as that's concerned there?
We are back up about where we were in previous, times during the year. Like I said, we did take that little dip, but now we have new clients reaching out again. And we did get that. We took about a break for about a week to get our process in place to be able to bring on new clients, but we are able to do that now as well.
And that's a great point, because it kind of leads us into another area of how organizations have had to acclimate to the change. And that is how staff are being onboarded, perhaps, to new procedures, new ways of doing things. Has there been a need to retrain staff in any way?
We did a lot of additional training around using technology. And the team definitely has done some of their own homework as well. But we've tried to provide some resources for the clinical team around providing services remotely, and then also for the administration and management team, and making sure that they all have what they need to work comfortably at home. One of the things that we decided is that we didn't want to be bouncing back and forth between, particularly with clients. We don't want to have to move things back in the office, and then we go on stay-at-home orders again and we have to move things out. So we decided that we would invest some time and energy in making sure that people had what they need to do their jobs comfortably at home. And we have also, the staff has helped some of our clients. We've helped by providing, cameras, so that people, if their laptop or their computer doesn't have a camera, that they can connect with us and that they can connect with their family members. Particularly for our seniors, that has been a big challenge, not being able to have that connection. So we've provided some technical assistance there as well.
And how has that been going? Generally, people are taking, especially if technology is new to them, have they been taken to it so far?
You know what? I've been really impressed with their willingness to try and to learn. There are some challenges along the way, but we've really, overall, it's been successful, and I think it's going to continue to grow. I think that as people are realizing that, we don't know how long this is going to last. People are recognizing that connection is very important. We recognized that the connection was important and decided to start a new support group for connection and coping, during this challenging time. And that actually did initially tend to skew a little bit older. And so we did help with the technology piece and make sure everybody was able to join, but they really appreciated having that weekly time to come together and talk to others about how they were managing during this time. And now it's grown to coping in general.
Yes.
It's been a good thing.
There's a lot going on out there, and I'm sure there are a lot of things that are weighing quite heavily on people's minds, on people's hearts. So having that access to those groups and that way to engage and keep connected is so vitally important. And we know that you've been able to move actually a good number of your support groups already online.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course there's a new one, as you were saying, one that really focuses on connecting and connection, particularly for these times.
Yes, they've talked a lot about coping skills and ways that they can manage during these times. But I think it's also really helpful just to be able to hear from other people that they're not alone in feeling this way. Because I think that isolation is, we're seeing and hearing that a lot of people feeling isolated during this time.
Yes.
So anything that we can do to support the community in having those connections is important.
Kathryn, another thing that JFCS did rather quickly is put together a list of resources and links to other services. Tell us a bit more about your online library or link to emergency COVID resources.
Sure. Well, we wanted to make sure that people did have connections. We do quite a bit of those kinds of referrals anyway. We field over 450 calls a year. And my guess is that this year we're going to find that number is even higher. Whether or not it's people looking for food assistance or assistance for one of their loved ones who might need assisted living. Our requests really run the gamut, but we were finding that we were receiving a lot of calls regarding COVID assistance. And so we wanted things to be available 24/7 online, since we are not necessarily reachable 24/7. But, if it's 11 o'clock at night and you're really, panicked and you're looking for some information, we wanted to make sure that it was available to them. So we've been doing a lot of connecting people in a lot of different ways.
Are you getting any feedback generally from the families, the individuals you're serving about how they're experiencing this time, what they're seeing, the reaction to your services?
A lot of our clients have definitely had some financial challenges if they were either laid off from their jobs or not able to work because they had children at home. So that's been definitely a challenge.
Yes.
So we've had a lot of people request fee reductions for counseling services or to be put on payment plans. And we've now more than ever, people need those mental health services. So we are absolutely supporting them in that. We have had a lot of requests for food and for families, for seniors, people that are struggling to put food on the table. So what we've done is we consider ourselves kind of the immediate need. We have a small food pantry, and we do have volunteers who have also been shopping and delivering food. But then we also try to make those long-term resources, connections to long-term resources. So to weekly lunch programs or to food banks and things that can be more of the ongoing, since that's not necessarily what we do. And we've had very positive feedback. The other thing that we have found maybe on the more challenging side is that we do have some clients who have personally had COVID or have family members who've had COVID. And we're finding that there's some stigma around that. And it's really unfortunate. So we've been talking about what we can do to help educate and support so that people don't feel stigmatized and isolated because they have experienced COVID. And still can stay safe. We certainly want people to, to stay safe and healthy, but it's been an interesting trend just in the last couple of weeks.
Wow. I didn't even think about how some of this can actually show up in spaces that you're operating in, that you're leading these conversations in. But that is true. I'm sure there is a stigma around some of that, and imagine during this time, people may be feeling a lot more ostracized.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, Kathryn, this is actually a good point for us to talk a little bit about collaborations and partnerships that you've had with others. And just a minute ago, you were telling us about the pantry services you have, which are just there to meet a very urgent and immediate need. But how have you been collaborating with others to help connect families to what could be then more long-term services as far as pantry services or other types of supplies?
Sure. Our social work team has been very on top of connecting with other organizations to see, what they are doing, and where we might be able to refer. And then during this time, what we found is we've partnered with the center and for the child, also to provide food and also necessities. We were going through that period of time where it was so challenging just to get things like paper towel and toilet paper. And so we were partnering with them to be able to provide some of their families with, with goods and food. But our social work team does an amazing job of really working with the different organizations and staying up on what's happening, as well as with the city. We've partnered with the health department we've taken on some of their calls to seniors to check in and make sure that needs are met. And then we have also in turn referred some people to them for services that they might be able to receive there as well. And then in a completely different perspective, we partnered with the nonprofit partnership to provide some groups for nonprofit professionals. Because I think that during this time, that's one of the things I've really been trying to encourage my staff to remember to take care of themselves as well. We tend to be the helpers, and we want to fix everything for everyone and be there for everyone. And this is one of the times in more recent history where I think everyone is experiencing the same, it's a collective trauma, everyone's experiencing the same thing. And so we need to remember to take care of ourselves as well. And I know that our groups that we partnered with TNP on were well received and hopefully of benefit.
Absolutely. And we're so appreciative of your collaboration and your willingness to say yes to our call for help, our request to work with you. And I'll take advantage of this quick moment too, Kathryn, to just also say what a joy and a pleasure it is to work with your staff. Some of your staff participate in our affinity group conversations. And I think when we really started to hear the toll that it's taking, particularly on staff who are primarily responsible for raising money, bringing in more resources for the organizations right now, and just the level of tremendous stress that's causing everybody, but in particular this group. Your organization was very quick to answer the call and say, we have some ideas on what we can do to convene. So thank you so much for just being a great partner, a great collaborator, and sharing your core competency and your resources with the rest of us as well.
Absolutely. And, I have to say that I am incredibly grateful for my team. I have such an amazing group of professionals that are not only really skilled and talented, but very passionate about what they do. And so, during this time, certainly everyone has had their challenging days. But overall, they have really, met the challenge and really worked to find solutions to, all of the challenges that have come up during this time. So I'm very grateful.
Yes, lots to be grateful for as we collaborate and we partner with you. And as recently, cities and counties and states and all sorts of municipalities were really looking at how we come back, how do we re-engage, what does reopening look like? And unfortunately, we've been seeing infection rates go up again and hospitalizations increase exponentially. But we know that we are on a trajectory to reopen. Now, what that looks like and when we're going to do it, we don't really know at this point. But we're curious to know from your perspective, as we do make plans to reopen, to reemerge, if you will, from stay-at-home orders, what would you like to see happen? What are you hoping for the families and the individuals that you're serving, given their needs? What would you like to see happen?
I think one of the first things and first needs that we're going to need to address is really, as the moratoriums on evictions and on utility shutoffs are no longer in place, we're really going to need, and I know that the city has been working on some plans to assist residents with that, but I think that the problem is really large. And I think that we're going to need to work to keep people housed and to keep food on the table and to keep the lights on in homes, because those basic needs are so important. They come before, not before, but they, if you're looking at the hierarchy of needs, those basic needs have to be met before you can really look at mental health and things like that. So I think that that's going to be a really important thing for us as a society to look at. And then I do think that new ways of connecting, I think as we're seeing, we're going to have to find ways of connecting that where we're maybe still keeping some physical distance. But I think that that's going to be really important as people have been isolated for a while, and especially with children as we're coming back out into the community.
Yes.
And then I do also think this is just new, as I mentioned, it's come up just in the last couple of weeks around the stigma piece. But I think maybe we're going to need to do some work around education with that, so that people aren't feeling ostracized, as you said. We have a lot of work to do as a society.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we always appreciate hearing from you, what you're seeing could be some real opportunities. And it's interesting, we've heard quite a bit that the pandemic situation is also in some ways brought about because we've had to pause so many things, or stop and reflect on things, almost forced to, really. But that those moments could be an opportunity for us to re-envision and rethink, what do we really need to shift resources to now? And so I think, just hearing from you what you feel is really important to elevate as we do think about re-emerging or re-engaging in systems or changing systemic responses, honestly. And a lot of what you shared with us today, Kathryn, is connected to that, right? Food, social services, assisting the family, assisting parents through what they're going through is so connected to all of that systemic response.
Definitely. And it might be that we end up, as I said earlier, I didn't think that JFCS could operate remotely, and certainly it's not the ideal piece. But we've also been talking about, well, gosh, when when things are reopening and we are back in the office, we may keep some of these pieces because it actually has allowed people to attend support groups that maybe physically wouldn't have been able to get out of their house otherwise. And it has allowed, we have a couple of moms who have said, they're single moms, their kids have been at home with them, they take public transportation. It's been so much easier for them to attend their therapy appointments online because they aren't worried about childcare and they aren't worried about transportation and those kinds of things. So I think we will re-look at how we offer services in the future.
Thank you for that. We really do appreciate your input and your insights into that. Now, here's a question I've been asking everybody. I'm curious to know what you're doing for self-care. We would like to share with us some tidbits. Maybe the rest of us can take some clues from how you approach this situation to keep yourself sane and balanced.
Sure. What I found is that I need to spend a little bit of time outside each day, whether or not, if I have time to go for a walk or get out on my bike, I definitely will do those kinds of things. But like yesterday was a particularly busy day and I had, meetings from morning till evening. But I did, I ate lunch outside, just a few minutes outside in the fresh air has really helped me a lot. Because we spend so much time in front of the screen.
Yes, no, thank you for that. And sometimes, you relating that is a great reminder that we don't necessarily have to make these big plans or go all out, but it's just that connection to those things that are really important for us, right? And can refresh us, such as going outside and connecting with the outdoors for a little bit. As you were answering that question, Kathryn, we did get somebody make a comment in the box, and they're really, really resonating with what you're saying. The comment is, I feel like there's a setup for stigma, especially as we are sending people back to work and school, but they're not taking the responsibility that we're not taking as a responsibility as a society. So thank you for calling that out, in other words. So thanks. I think, maybe this is hopefully we'll have more conversations, and we'll amplify throughout our community on really keeping an eye out on that one particular piece. Thank you for calling that out.
Absolutely.
Kathryn, I'm sad to say we are at the end of our interview, but I just wanted to, kind of leave it open for you to share anything else you would like to share.
Sure. I want people to know that we are we have space. We're taking on new clients. People can join our support groups. If they're in need of financial assistance or food, visit our website. Our contact information is there. Our phone number is 562-427-7916. Leave a message, and someone will get back to you within 24 hours. But we are here for the community and, here to help.
Excellent. And with that, Ms. Kathryn Miles, Executive Director of Jewish Family and Children's Service, thank you so very much. Thanks, everybody. Please visit.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks again, Kathryn.